Hello students, welcome to the class today. Today I'm going to show you about the present perfect and the past perfect. In this lesson, we are going to focus to the structure, how do we use, and then we practice. Let's start with the basics. I have here the regular and irregular verbs. For the perfect tenses, we use the verb number 3 and it calls the past participle. For example, in present perfect, I have walked to school. How to form the positive statement in present perfect? You using the auxiliary verb have with the past participle. And the auxiliary verb have, you change its form based on the subject. For example, I, you, we, they, or any plural subject, we using have. He, she, any singular subject, we using has. In spoken English, we usually contract form to make it more naturally. For example, I have walked to school becomes I've walked to school. She has walked to school becomes she's walked to school. In negative, we add not between have and past participle. We also contract the form, becomes haven't and hasn't. For example, I haven't eaten. Lisa hasn't eaten. How about interrogative form? We move have, then the subject, then past participle. And don't forget the question mark. For example, have you eaten? Yes, I have. No, I haven't. Has Lisa eaten? Yes, she has. No, she hasn't. The present perfect is used for an action started in the past and continue to the present. For example, they've known each other since they were young. It means they know each other in the past and it's still true now. You look at the example. In this sentence, I'm using since with a point of time. Since they were young, since 1970. And in this one, they've known each other for over 50 years. Over 50 years is a long period of time, so I'm using for with a period of time. The present perfect is also used for a finished action, which a result in the present. In this case, they focus on the result. For example, Pete has lost his key. It means Pete lost his key in the past, and the result now, he can't get in his car. The past experiences. In this case, they often use the words ever and never. For example, have you ever visited Paris? I've never visited Paris. Present perfect used for an action happened during a time period that has not yet finished, like today, this month, this year. What does it mean, a time period that has not yet finished? Look at the example. You've arrived late to work 4 times this month. I use the present perfect here because this month is not finished. Using present perfect for an action that was recently finished. For example, I'm just finished running. And some signals for present perfect like just, yet, already, recently. Be careful. Yet, only using in negative statements and questions. For example, the bus hasn't arrived yet. When an action is completed before we expect it, we use already in positive statements. For example, I've already finished my homework. Be careful. We do not use the present perfect with a specific time in the past unless the verb since is used. Let's do a little comparison. I have visited Paris and I have visited Paris last month. The first sentence is correct, but the second sentence is wrong because last month is a specific time in the past. You can correct this sentence by changing it into simple past. I visited Paris last month. The second example, I have learned French and I have learned French when I was a child. The first sentence is correct. The second one is wrong because when I was a child, a specific time in the past, you can correct by changing this sentence into simple past or change the word when into since. Let's do exercise. Exercise number 1. Write these sentences using the phrases given. Number 1. I've known him for 3 months. Number 2. Number 2 is in interrogative. Have you eaten Thai food before? Number 3. Have I explained it well? Number 4. A WH question. Who has he met recently? Number 5. In negative. We haven't heard that song before. And number 6. Where have you been? Exercise number 2. Verb form. The past simple or present perfect. Number 1. Last year, I Hanoi. Last year is a specific time in the past, so we're using the past simple. Number 2. I Julie for 3 years. We still meet once a month. It means that now, until the present, we still meet once a month. So we're using the present perfect. Number 3. I hockey since I was a child. You look at the signal verb since using the present perfect. Number 4. My great-grandmother for a few years. But be careful. She died when I was 8. It means that my great-grandmother died when I was 8. But now I'm not 8. In this case, we're using simple past. Number 5. She in London since. You look at the signal verb since. She's lived in present perfect. Let's move on to the past perfect. The structure of past perfect is similar with the present perfect, but the auxiliary verb will become the past form, had plus past participle, negative had not plus past participle, interrogative had plus subject plus past participle. Even though you have a plural subject, a singular subject, the verb form never changes. For example, I had walked, he had walked, we had walked, they had walked. We also contract the form. For example, he had walked becomes he walked. We had not walked, we hadn't walked. Be careful if you see I'd going with an infinitive verb. It is good. I would talk to school. And if you see I plus past participle, it is had. I had walked to school. When do we use the past perfect? The past perfect is used for an earlier past. It means a past of another past. For example, Pete failed his test because he hadn't studied. Can you find the simple past? Failed. Can you find the past perfect? Hadn't studied. Two actions. So which one happened first? He hadn't studied first, then he failed his test. The past perfect is always the first action. And when you use the past perfect, it can change the meaning in your sentence. Let's do a little comparison. When she arrived, the train left. When she arrived, the train had left. When she arrived, the train left. It means she arrived first, then the train left immediately after. When she arrived, the train had left. It means that the train left first, then after that she arrived. It means that she missed the train. Now you look at these sentences. He'd eaten breakfast before he went to school. After he'd eaten breakfast, he went to school. He'd eaten breakfast by the time he went to school. By 8 a.m. this morning, he'd eaten breakfast, then he went to school. These are the signals to use the past perfect: before, after, by the time, by. We also have forgot, realize, and remember. Let's do exercise. You change the verb into the correct form of the past perfect. Number 1. I've forgotten. You must be careful of the past participle because we have the regular and irregular verb. Number 2. When we arrive at the station, the train already left. It hadn't rained all summer. John had had a party. Someone had eaten all my chocolate. Now, let's review all of the lessons. For present perfect, we go through the structure: positive, negative, and interrogative. We have some signals for present perfect: just, yet, already, recently, especially, since, and for. When do we use the present perfect? An action starts in the past and continues to the present. A finished action with a result in the present. A past experiences an action happened during an unfinished time period. An action that was recently finished. For the past perfect, the structure of past perfect, positive, negative, and interrogative. The signal before, after, by the time, forgot, realized, and remembered. When do we use the past perfect? To describe an earlier past, and the past perfect always the first action. Now, don't forget to copy the lesson to your notebook and do the homework. Thank you for your attention. See you soon. Bye.